Let's start this over. It's windy, so I apologize if the wind is a lot. I might be moving around to try to get it to stop happening, so I'm sorry about that. I'm gonna try to not show my face too much for this. This is what I look like right now. But I'm purposefully not showing my face for this for too much because um, there seems to be a big problem in the video media right now where images are being greatly abused. So I'm gonna try to keep it very plain looking here somehow and stop from the wind because I want to do this outside. Can you tell I used to smoke? When you're a smoker and it's windy, you have to do this. This is rust on the ground. Don't get any bad ideas, which I'm sure you have, unfortunately. So what's going on here? I'm in a strange plateau in my life. Everything is going well, and I'm happier than I've ever been. And that seems to be what my problem is functionally in the world. When I was miserable and I was teaching and down on myself, all the other teachers and administration and staff and were very appreciative and positive, and any inkling that I'm happy with what I'm doing and I'm happy to adjust and do my job well and has made it enormously harder. Why? And I'm constantly having to tell myself again and again that jeez, that everything is fine because it is. I wake up and I don't have a job and I'm learning to cook on the smallest possible budget. As you can see, I've been learning about what kind of plants that you can eat. These you can't, by the way. Not that I've tried. So that's been okay. But I don't understand why it's now that I'm happy, despite being horribly in debt and unemployed and now not of legal status, being officially filed under a trans person. Whether or not it's true doesn't matter. There are lots of people in the world who affix themselves to the law strictly and only consider that, which is unfortunate. And it's like, I want to go and talk to people, and then the behaviors I get from people when I start having conversations with them, it's like I'm afraid to bend over. I'm afraid to, I get flirted, men are flirting with me, and it's exhausting to have to, because it's not, with women I have trouble as well, but that's, I have a legitimate interest in seeing. I don't really mind having to sort through that. There's nothing about me that would ever say that I would really want to be with a man. And it seems like a lot of quote unquote straight men are not able to handle themselves. And I'm not used to having to deal with that. I didn't have to deal with it as a teenager, as many young women do. I should say young girls do, because that's an issue right now too. I think all these, all these things are kind of in the popular news and world stage have been very telling as to how people really are. And some cases it's fine, and people just don't know themselves well. But sometimes it's I get aggressed upon, and it's very exhausting, because if I have to constantly be guarded from every person that I meet, like this, then it's this is what it's like. You know, I try to, and I know everybody's life is unique, and unfortunately, not that I've resigned myself to the fate of it, but I seem to be fitting some kind of archetype where I'm the stapler guy from Office Space, where I've just been continually working, and then I got put in the copy room and, you know, got demoted, and after just legitimately working and having my stuff taken and getting fired for no reason, and it's so I don't want to chalk it up to that just I have bad luck or something, but I get afraid that I'm not going to be able to connect with anybody, because it seems normal for most places in the world that your relationships are built on neediness and not the actual desire to share company. You know, most relationships are built upon attachment in a survivalist mentality, and that's foolish. I think that's the problem of most of the world, is that people are focused on not dying instead of living their lives and enjoying it. And so it's like I started this video journal to say that I have a problem, but I don't really have a problem. The only problem is that I don't seem to be able to find anybody else who is content in their life and want to share their time with me. I know that my past, I've been horribly needy, and that's, you know, many of my relationships were built upon that neediness, most young people's lives are. I can't claim that that's the problem with culture in general, but why does it seem like nobody grows up? Why does nobody seem to take ownership with their actions? That, you know, people get competitive about stupid things, and, you know, you can't just work and be happy and be done with it. There always has to be human primate, Homo sapiens. There's something in it where there's a set of the population who just has to ruin the parade. And because I'm happy and largely unguarded, I get thumbs in my pudding almost every time I try to eat pudding around people. And I'm not the only person who's like this, but this, you know, me actively seeking friends and employment for many years and getting well and finding the right diet and drugs and exercise and legitimately being physically healthy has made it almost impossible for me to find people to connect to. So I can't claim to be, you know, 100%, million% healthy, because I know that's impossible. You have to, your health is your daily practice in maintaining your health, and I'm doing a good job. We live in a culture where it's normal to when somebody says something, that there always has to be another side. There always has to be a negative side and a counterpoint. People live their whole lives sustaining themselves on careers that do that. Why is that? Why does there always have to be something wrong? That's the devil. when there's something wrong, you will know it and you will act accordingly. That's you making it up in your head for something to be wrong. Or you're bored and you want some kind of a conflict. But usually that's not boredom. That's not boredom. That's usually dissatisfaction from something that's unresolved. When you're seeking conflict like that. Oh, there's a deer there. Yo. Hi. Yo. Hey. Hi. I see ya. You're eating the trees. Like, this deer has no problem with eating those trees. He has no problem with me talking over here. Gee, I can't tell. I don't know. That's the thing. Like, I've been hanging out in the woods here, like, which isn't, like, even technically my family's property. My family doesn't talk to me, ever. They just leave me here happy and content. Which is fine. I don't know. The world is so fucked up right now, too. If you've seen, anything else I've been posting about the news and, like, what is happening? The president has gone legitimately insane. Like, the old royals kind of insane, where it's like, I don't know. It's disappointing. I get disappointed with people. People who are just so hypocritical, what they've said over the years. Totally abandoning their political and moral standings because they feel afraid. It's so upsetting to me. And then it's like, if I, try to say anything, it's like I don't know. Maybe I'm overly confident. They say, I don't know, what do I do? What do I do to connect with people more? I have the problem of being too honest. The social world is based on bullshit. And pretty much unless you're... Pretty much the only people who I seem to really get along with are people who have really, really had a hard time in their life. Because I've had a very hard time in my life, especially early on. So, I've met people from Kensington and, I've had conversations with homeless people and drug addicts and stuff, and, people who have been to the bottom of the barrel, and they get eschewed and ignored, and they're largely happy if they recover, and society ignores the people who know how that there's more than just surviving in the world. They don't want to hear that you can overcome things and you can adjust and grow. And so me coming to my health largely is me realizing how sick people really are. People who are claiming to be healthy, people who are doctors and teachers and, building the world around us to make us sicker. I think people don't want to realize this because the horror of, my gosh, everybody is so shaking and afraid and blind that they can't enjoy their lives with nothing. They don't want to hear me ramble on about having the problem of having no problems. I feel like people want more than that's there. But look how much that's there. like I know that my family is wealthy and this is quite a bit of land, but it's not really about that. People get focused. You know, they're paying the credit card machine. Mind. They're worried. They get themselves caught up and worried and attached because they think they have to. You know, I've had, you know, people want to put it upon me, and it's taken a long time for me to realize that a lot of people in my life were jostling me to get the reaction that they wanted, to feed it to themselves. Oh, he must be bothered. Well, of course I'm bothered. Of course I'm bothered. And, you know, I try to come up with an example of what I mean, but I can't think of one because I let those things go. I can't think of those things, but certainly in my previous careers, that's been a problem where, you know, me being unashamed to have been late for a legitimate reason, and, you know, my bosses are yelling at me for all the things I've done wrong, and I'm, you know, apologizing, and then eventually getting upset that I felt like I've been treated unfair, and then I'm shown the door. It's so it's a legitimate issue because it's not just me. It sounds like I'm just talking like it's me against the world or whatever, but there are plenty of people like me who get boxed in and ignored because we're happy. We know that life is fairly simple and that the needs of a human are fairly simple, especially for males. I meet men, and sometimes I wonder, why are you so upset and worried about the world? Women have more issues to deal with, but it's still the same sort of scope. We're finite, small beings in the world where we need good food and conversation and rest and some sort of industry to be well, and that's it. That's not hard to do. It's hard to realize that and do it for real. People want to get caught up in negative because they think that there's a reason to be worried, that it's beneficial to be overly critical and, you know, always find the negatives to things. We're trained to do that. Most of the time, it's not necessary. Most of the time, it's people trying to get you to be afraid because it's more profitable. I love my life. I wish more people felt that way because I want to share my life with people. I don't know. I look so many people in the eyes and they either start, you know, flirting with me like a middle schooler, or they look down and ashamed. Why? The few people that I connect with, the world doesn't allow us. They don't allow us to, you know, it's, you know, I'm certainly in a different situation, but, you know, some of the, specifically the black individuals that I've known in the past, they have a similar issue. There are plenty of black men and women who are struggling doggedly in their life, financially and otherwise. But, you know, there's time where you have downtime and we all laugh and enjoy life and move on. It's all great. The systems of the world see that happening, and it's like all of the authority that people who don't know how to do that come out and have to go and break it up for some reason. Oh, you can't be laughing loudly about something that's funny. You have to go be doing something. That's the attitude I get almost everywhere I go. You can't be standing there for some reason. People trying to move me around, like, I'm just standing there, and men and women are trying to like jostle back and forth to see if they'll move me. And what do you do in that situation? Sometimes I just wiggle a little bit just to show that I'm noticing that they're doing it. I don't know. And I understand that I have it's hard too because it's I have to admit to the fact that I'm at least overly educated, if not more intelligent than most people. I think it's fairly safe to say that that's the case if you know me. I struggled with that fact for a very long time. And it's a handicap, it doesn't necessarily make you smarter. And then people get weirded out because if you perceive things objectively or at least subjectively from one perspective, you can effectively perceive or make a judgment upon somebody's characters only on your own. And that, for most people, is not okay. They immediately peg you as a sociopath for claiming to know anything, and they want to test you every which way because you're wrong. Immediately. I don't know why that happens. I used to get so upset about it. The past year, it's worn on me, and I just don't. I can't interact with people who are like that now. Those people have years and years of self-searching to do because they don't know themselves well enough to have me even look at them as a painter. It's because a lot of times I think what happens is when people meet me, I know who I am, and somebody who doesn't know themselves, usually can only frame the world in terms of themselves, where it's all in reference to the self because they don't have themselves all the way composed yet. And unfortunately, that's a vast majority of the people in the world. And so when you meet somebody who's found themselves, even just a little bit, it's not respected because people are, what do you mean you're one thing? What do you mean you're too much of a thing to frame in my own mind completely? Which is everybody. You can't frame anybody in your own mind completely or accurately. You get an impression of somebody day to day, and that's about it. The best to characterize a person is in their name. Who are you? Well, I'm Will, and I'm, the consequence of my actions over many years of being alive. That's about all you can say. When you meet and talk to someone, you're getting an infinitely small piece of what that person really is. So you don't even know yourself. I know an infinitely small piece of myself, but I know that I'm much more. That seems to be hard. You have to relinquish your control upon who you are to realize yourself. You're not really in control of yourself entirely. So I'm a happy person, but it's disappointing to me. Why did nobody make it out of middle school? Why do I look around and everybody's looking at their toes and like there's nobody else around? It's weird.